What's cracking, people? Fire here from AwesomeDudes.com. I just woke up, did a live stream, and now I'm doing a tutorial. I know this is Friday when I publish this tutorial, but I recorded it on Sunday, okay? What did you do with your life? Anyways, I'm just kidding. So, back at again with another really cool 2D game. I did not implement mobile controls, but if you just follow my tutorial about joystick, you can easily implement mobile controls for this, so you can call it also a mobile game, which is a really cool one. Let me show you what is the game all about. So, let's take a look at it. So here, if I hit the play button, you see we have this regular plane, and he's flying alone. You see we have these mines that are coming from the sky. They cannot touch us. We also have this rocket and this plane that's chasing us, and they also are not allowed to touch us. I mean, they can touch us, but they will kill us, you see? And when they kill us, we restart the game. It's a really cool one. So we spawn these mines, they're trying to kill us, but they're also killing these rockets or this rocket and this plane. And we need to be, bam, and I died. So yeah, as you can see, it's a really cool game. You can implement like a timer, so how much time can you stay alive? That can be like the goal of the game, which is your assignment. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm not gonna do everything for you, man. I should stop recording these videos when I just wake up. I don't know what I'm talking about. But that's the usual deal with me, so yeah, it's the same thing. Anyways, smash a like, subscribe, comment, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. You can download the project and the assets. Link will be in the description below. What else can I say? Let's get into the video because I know you're annoyed by my intros, but I don't care. Smash a like. See ya. What is cracking, people? We are in a new 2D project because we're gonna create that really cool game that you just saw. So the first thing that we're gonna do is import these assets. So we have the sprites here, that's the only thing that we need. And if you want to download them, link is in the description below. And I already said that, but you don't want to listen. So the next thing that I'm gonna do is go here in the sprites. And first of all, I'm simply gonna go here and attach. Actually, I need to select all of these for some reason, even though it's a 2D game. It did not import these as sprites, it imported as texture. So what I need to do is select all of them, all three of them, go here on the texture type, and I need to set it sprite, 2D, and UI. And I need to hit here apply so that those changes apply. And this is only BG. Why am I saying here BG and planes? So now I'm simply going to drag and drop it here in our game. And let me take the main camera, position it at 0 so that we have this whole BG covering our screen. Next thing to do is select the sprites here. So here I'm going to say sprites or planes. So planes and whatnot, planes and obstacles. Okay. So for this one, I'm gonna go and click here for sprite mode to change it from single to multiple because we want to slice this up, and I'm going to hit apply at the bottom right corner in the inspector panel, and now I'm going to go and open the sprite editor. So I'm gonna click here slice and slice again. So this one is going to be our plane. So I'm going to call this one plane. This one is going to be our plane enemy. This one is going to be the rocket. So rocket enemy. And this one is going to be the mine, like this. And I'm going to hit apply so that this or these changes apply to this prefab. What if I tell you that I have more tutorials with better explanations and a more comprehensive guide than this one that you're following? Sounds interesting? Well, that's my Game Development Academy, and inside you have more than 80 courses, more than 500 hours of content for you to learn game development with Unity, Unreal Engine, and everything in between. So, click the link down below and check it out. Okay, so now we have our plane. I'm going to drag and drop it right here, and we don't see it. Why we don't see it? Well, the reason for that is because of the order in layer. I'm going to set the plane at order in layer 5 here, and voila, we automatically see the plane. What I'm also going to do, let me first go in the scene view, and I'm going to take the plane and scale it down. So 0.2, X and Y, so that this is how large our plane is. I'm going to attach a polygon collider on our plane. So you see now when we attach the polygon collider, this is how our plane looks like. Now you can edit this polygon collider, for example, if you don't like this right here. Why is this? Let me just go to the layout and redo this. Why isn't it allowing me to zoom in a little bit more? So this is a 2D game, so go here. Yeah, now I can zoom in a little bit more. So you see these green lines for the collider are a little bit outside of the sprite. What you can do is you can click on the edit collider right here on the polygon collider, and then you can come back here and you can do something like this. You can change it here and here and here. I'm not gonna do that though for all of this. I'm just showing you how you can do it. So yeah, if you don't like it, but this is fine for our game. So yeah, this is completely fine. I'm also going to go here and click on this is trigger checkbox, tag the player with the player tag, voila. We also need a rigid body. So here I'm gonna go and attach a rigid body 2D. I'm going to make it kinematic because I don't want gravity to affect it, and I'm not gonna do any constraints because we need them. We're gonna rotate our game object or our plane. So now we have our plane. This is everything we need to do. And we can now go back here in our scenes, and I can right click here and create the scripts folder. And inside of the scripts folder, I can create a new player movement script. Of course, we are going to select it. So go here, select the plane, and drag and drop the script on it. And one more thing, I'm gonna go here and create another folder that I'm going to call prefabs, and you know the drill, what we're gonna do with the prefabs. So yeah, let me open this script. Let me see if it's gonna open in Visual Studio. So yeah, okay, it's gonna open in Visual Studio. I'm gonna double click it, and let's wait for the Visual Studio to take mercy upon you and me. And finally opens the, what am I saying, man? It's probably open so far. So yes, it is. So here, let me tag everything. So class, give it a little bit of space. So what do we need? Well, we need a public float. So public float is going to be our speed. I'm going to say 3F. We also need a public float or rotation speed, which is going to be equal to 200F. We also need a private float, horizontal, and a public game object explosion. But explosion, we will have it last, so don't worry about that for now. Inside of our update, what I'm gonna do is the following. First of all, remove this comment. Why are you playing with me update? Okay, so here I'm going to say horizontal is equal to input get axis raw, and here I'm going to say horizontal. For those of you guys wondering what is the difference between get axis and get axis raw, I'm not gonna explain. I'm gonna make you do that on your own. Use print and print it in the console. So simply like this, print it, and that way you will see what is the difference between get axis raw and get axis. So print it in the console. So now that we get the input, which is going to get us the input when we press the left arrow key or the right arrow key or A or D key on our keyboard, so it's gonna give us those values. If we press A and left arrow key or left arrow key, it's gonna give us a value of -1. If we press D and the right arrow key, we're gonna get a value of +1. If we don't press anything, it's gonna be 0. So here I'm gonna say transform.translate. This is not translate like from another language. Don't think of it like that. So here I'm gonna say vector2 up, and I'm gonna multiply that with the speed, multiply that with the time dot delta time, and here I'm going to say space dot self like this. And if I hover over, you see this translate is gonna translate as relative to the self. So you see space self applies transformation relative to the local coordinate system. Basically, what does that mean? Think of it like this. It will use the coordinate system relative or local to the plane itself, not relative to the Unity's world. So that is the best way how I can explain that to you. So the next thing that I'm gonna do is transform.rotate, so rotate, and here I'm gonna say vector3 forward. I'm gonna multiply that, so multiply it with the negative horizontal, and I'm gonna multiply that with the rotation speed and multiply that with the time, the delta time. Simple. Very simple. So what's gonna happen here, and why negative horizontal? Well, because I want to rotate to the right side when I click on the right key or the D key or the right arrow key, and I want to rotate to the left side when I click the left arrow key. That's why I put here the negative, or otherwise it will not work because of the way that we set it up. So here, if I go now and hit the play button, you see I'm holding the right one. You see what I'm doing here? You see? Voila. Wee. Actually, I did the opposite, so excuse me for that one. I'm actually rotating with the opposite. So when I press the left arrow key or A key, I'm rotating to the right side. When I press the D or the right arrow key, I'm rotating to the left side. That's why I added this horizontal, negative horizontal. Sometimes I have issues talking. So yeah, okay. What is the next thing to do? Well, the next thing to do is to create our mine enemy. So I'm going to go back here in assets and sprites. And here I'm going to take the mine and put it right here. Of course, we don't see it because it's the order in layer needs to be set at 3. So now we see it. And it's too large, of course. So what I'm going to do here is change the scale to 0.15, 0.15. So 0.15 for X and the Y. I'm going to attach a circle collider and I'm going to check this is trigger checkbox. I'm also going to attach a rigid body 2D and I'm going to leave it like this with the dynamic. I'm not gonna leave it as kinematic because we do need gravity on this one. And I'm gonna go here and create a mine tag. So here I'm going to say mine and also enemy. So I'm gonna select the mine right now and go here and create it as a mine tag, or attach or click or select the mine tag. And I'm going to put the mine right here. So the mine on its own is not going to do anything. Instead, we need to create the mine spawner. So I'm going to go here and right click and create a game object that I'm going to call mine spawner. And I am going to position him. So X is going to be 0, Y is going to be 7.5, and Z is going to be equal to 0. So what do we need for our mine spawner? Now I can remove the mine from our game. We don't need it because everything's gonna happen in the mine spawner. So we need to create a script called mine spawner. And of course, we are going to attach it. So let's go here and drag and drop it on the mine spawner. Make sure it is attached. Open it in Visual Studio or Notepad, or even take your notebook and just write it down with a pen. I don't know what you're doing with your code, okay? So what we're gonna do here is that we need a public game object mine prefab, which is the one that we're going to spawn. We also need a public float minimum x, which is gonna be equal to negative 8.3f, and the maximum underscore x, which is gonna be equal to 0.3f or 8.3f. We also need the public float spawn interval, which is going to be equal to 3.5f, like this. And basically that's all we need for our mines. Now, what is this negative 3 and positive 8.3? Well, we need to do this. So let me go here, select the mine spawner. We need to drag and drop the mine here as the mine prefab. Now what we need to spawn our mine within these bounds. I have issues talking. So within these bounds, you see, it cannot go outside. So what I did is I simply put the mine over here and saw the position, which is 8.3. Here is negative 8.3. That's why, or how, I came up with the minimum x and the maximum x. We don't need the update for this one. What I'm gonna do is I am going to create enumerator. Now we do need, so we have the spine interval, everything is okay here. So enumerator, and this is, I'm going to call this one spawn mines. And what we're gonna do here in this coroutine, first of all, I'm gonna create an int random, or int count that is, which is gonna be equal to random range, and I'm going to set that random from 3 to 8. So we can either spawn 3 or 8 mines. We will see that in a second. I'm gonna say here vector3 temp, which is gonna be equal to transform position. And below, I'm simply gonna say for int I, which is equal to 0, as long as I is less than the count, I++. So what's gonna happen here is I'm gonna say temp.x is gonna be equal to random range between minimum x and the maximum x. Because I want to randomize the x position of that mine. I've just explained that a moment ago. And next I'm gonna say instantiate mine prefab at the temporary position using quaternion identity. Voila. And we do need to say here yield a return null. Null is gonna skip every next frame. So we're gonna skip every next frame in the iteration, and that's why I'm using that. So we will see that in a second how it's going to work out for us. And here I'm going to create a function that I am going to call void activate mine spawner. What's mine spawner going to do? It's going to start the coroutine, spawn mines like this, and then it's going to call itself over and over again. So here I'm going to say invoke this function in the spawn interval time. And if I go here, I'm also going to call it, so this function, I'm going to call it like this, but here I'm going to say 1F so that we start spawning these mines as soon as our game starts. So we're going to wait only 1 second, and then we are going to start spawning these mines. So let's go here and hit the play button. You will see now, and I'm going to go here in the scene, pay attention, see, the mines have started to spawn. And now every 3.5 seconds, the mines are going to spawn. Now we don't see our plane because it went out of the bounds, but if you do it like this, you see now we need to, so now we need to avoid all of these mines. You can see. Now we have one other issue, and I'm going to show that. You see the mines are here and they're falling. You see that we still have all the mines, they're falling. It's nothing is happening with them. So we need to fix that as well. And in order to fix that, we need to create a script. So we need to go here, and I'm going to go and create a C# script. I'm going to call it mine script. Not mind, so it's not a mind, it's a mine script. And I'm going to go in prefabs and mine, and I'm going to say here mine script, and double click it and open it here. What do we need for our mine script? Well, simply here for the update function. Come on, here as well. Give just a little bit space. So in the update, I'm going to test if the transform.position.y is less than the -5 game object set active is equal to, come on man, it's equal to false. Now there is another way that we can do this. We can create a collider that can detect that, but there is no need. We can do it like this. And while I am in the mine script, I'm also going to create on trigger enter 2D. And here I'm going to say target, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to test if the target.tag is equal to the enemy tag. That means if we hit one of our enemies, that is the rocket or the plane, I'm simply going to say target.gameObject.setActive is equal to false to deactivate the enemy. And we can also say gameObject.setActive false to deactivate the mine itself. So yeah. Now that we have or put these enemies right here, what I'm gonna do, or actually this code, we need our enemies. So let's go back here in the assets, sprites, and here we have the plane enemy, here we have the rocket enemy. So what we need to do with both, so rocket enemy, I'm going to position it here, plane enemy, I'm going to position it here, select both of them, set their order in layer at 3, so now we can see them. And now I'm going to select both of them. Actually, first I'm going to select the plane enemy, and the scale for the plane enemy is going to be 0.19 for the X, 0.19 for the Y. For the rocket, it's going to be 0.1 on X and Y. So 0.1, 0.1. So this is what we have now. I'm going to select both of these, and we're going to attach polygon colliders. So here I'm going to say polygon collider. It's polygon collider 2D. I'm also going to attach a rigid body, which is a rigid body 2D, and here I'm going to set this to be a trigger, and the rigid body for both is going to be kinematic. Make sure that you tag both of these with the enemy tag. So yeah, tag them both with the enemy tag. And now we simply need to go here in the assets and scripts and right click here and C# script. This one is the enemy script. Select both of them, the plane enemy and the rocket enemy, and attach the enemy script on them. Now, before we do anything, I'm also going to go here and position the rocket over here, because when we test this out, so that when they start chasing the enemy or the plane, we're going to see that. And by the way, create a prefab out of both of these. So now let's go in the enemy script. Let me go here, click on the enemy script. So this enemy script is going to be like an AI script. It's going to make the enemy follow the player until it kills it. It's brutal like that. So we need a public float, which is going to be speed, and I'm going to set that to 5. We also need a public float, which is going to be the rotation speed, and I'm going to set that to 200. We also need a private transform, which is going to be our player target. We need him or need that to chase the player. A private rigid body 2D, which I'm going to call my body. I mean, who else's body is that? We will also need here a public game explosion, so public game explosion, and we will need this as well. So we will need a public enemy spawner, which I'm going to call enemy spawner. We still did not create this. We will create it in a moment, so don't worry about that. And here also we're going to say hide in inspector as well. So you will see that in a second. Don't panic. Don't be like, oh, I don't know what should I do. Don't worry. Don't worry. Here I'm going to say awake. And in the awake, I'm going to say my body is equal to get the component, which is the rigid body 2D component. So it's a 2D game. We need to get the rigid body 2D. Also, we need to get a reference to the player. So we need to say player target is equal to game object find with the tag player. Again, you know that I hate doing things like this. I'm doing it on purpose in these tutorials because I want you to fix it. So I want you to create a separate script that's gonna hold all these strings that we are using. Same as here in our, where is it? Here for the enemy as well. We will have in the player movement as well. So I want you to do that on your own. And here in the fixed update, so it's the fixed update. This is where we are going to make our plane follow the player. So first of all, I'm going to say if player target, so if player target is equal to null, we are going to return or exit outside of the function, because if we don't have the player to search for him and attack him, then exit out of the function. What else can we do? Next, I'm going to say here vector2 point to target. This I'm going to call this one, and that's going to be equal to, and here I'm going to convert the vector2, and I'm going to say transform position, which is the current position, minus, here I'm also going to say vector2, and I'm going to say player target dot position. What am I doing here is I'm transforming this transform position is a vector3. I'm saying here vector2, which is going to convert it in vector2 simply. And we're going to get that position by subtracting from our current position the player's position. So next I'm going to say point to target dot normalize, which is going to make this vector have a magnitude of 1. Next, I'm going to say float value is going to be equal to vector3 cross, which is the cross product of two vectors. And here I'm going to say point to target transform dot up, and I'm going to use that to get the z-axis here, because that's the value. That's basically the distance between our enemy and the plane. And next, I'm going to say my body velocity is equal to transform dot up, multiply that with the speed, but we need my body dot angular velocity, and that's going to be equal to a rotation speed, multiply that with the value. So this is how we are going to make our plane search or attack for our enemy. Now what I'm also going to do here is I'm going to create void on trigger enter 2D. Here I'm going to say target, and here I'm going to test if target.tag is equal to the mine. So if we collide with the mine, if the mine hits the enemy, we are going to instantiate our explosion. So we're going to say instantiate here, explosion at the transform position using quaternion.identity, but we will also need to spawn new planes, new enemies. So I'm going to say here enemy spawner dot activate spawning like this, but we will need to actually create this. We will do all of this in a moment, so don't worry about that. Let me quickly go here in our Unity editor, because we did create our scripts, and now these planes will be able to follow the player. You see now they are following the player, and bam, we have the mine that killed one of the and they killed both. Okay, so but the point is, and let me just go back here, actually turn off the mine spawner. The point is that our plane and our rocket are following the player, and you see we need to avoid them, and they are too quick for the player, so they are too quick. What I would need to do is select both of them and probably set the speed to 3, because they are too quick. They can catch up to the player very quickly and kill him. So yeah, we need it like this. Wee, and now you can run from then. Wee. You see, that's the point of the game. Okay. Now we do need to create here. So yeah, let me just go here and hit apply for both of these. So apply. And we need to create that enemy spawner that I was talking about. So here I'm going to say enemy spawner. Now for one enemy spawner, because we're going to have two, one is going to be at 11 position X, and I'm also going to tag it here like this, and I'm going to duplicate it. So this one is enemy spawner 1, this one is enemy spawner 2, and this one is going to be at the negative 11. And here I'm going to right click and create a C# script, and this one is going to be called enemy spawner. How did you think that I'm going to call it? So select these two game objects, go under add component and attach the enemy spawner and double click it and open it in Visual Studio. So here, let me tag the class, give a little bit of space. So what we're gonna do with the enemy spawner is that we need a public game object, we need the rocket, and we need the plane. We also need a public bool, and here I'm going to say spawn missile or spawn rocket, and here spawn plane. To determine which of these spawners is going to spawn a rocket, which one is going to spawn the plane. And we also need the public float spawn time, that's going to be equal to 3. And we need here hide in inspector. So what am I doing? Hide in inspector, we need a public float, or actually, excuse me, a public bool can spawn, which by default I'm going to set that to be equal to true. Now going back here, we need a void spawn enemy function. So spawn enemy like this. Inside this one, I'm simply going to say game object go is equal to null. Next, I'm going to test if spawn rocket, we are going to spawn the rocket. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say go is equal to instantiate. Here I'm going to say a rocket, and I'm going to say transform that position for the position, quaternion identity for the rotation. Here I'm going to say, where is my mouse? Spawn plane, and here I'm simply going to say plane. So these are the two prefabs that we have here that we will attach in a moment. Next, I'm going to say here go dot get component, but before that we need to go here in our enemy script, and this we need to uncheck. Okay, so we need to uncheck this right here, because now we have created the enemy spawner. Because we need to do this, we need to say go dot get component, and we're gonna get the enemy script component dot enemy spawner is equal to this, and here I'm going to say can spawn is now equal to false. And we are going to do this because we need to, and actually we don't even need the can spawn here. So we don't need the can spawn, this here as well, we don't need it. And here what we need is a public void activate spawning like this. And simply here I'm going to say invoke the function with the name here spawn enemy. It's actually like this, spawn enemy, comma, and here I'm going to say spawn time. Simple like that. And here as well, I'm going to go and call it in the start function. Now we do need to go back in the enemy script, and we need to uncheck this right here, activate spawning, because when our enemy gets killed by the mine, it's gonna call this, which is gonna invoke this spawn enemy in the spawn time, which is again going to activate the spawning. And now we need this enemy spawner, we're setting it to be equal to this, to the reference of its own enemy spawner script, because we have two in the game. So we have here enemy spawner 1 and 2, and we need to select both of them and go here into the prefabs and attach here the plane and attach here the rocket. Here it is. Now this one can be spawning rockets, and this one can be spawning planes. Simple as that. And we can also randomize the spawning, so it doesn't have to be like in the same minute. So this one can spawn in 3 seconds, this one can spawn in 4.5 seconds. So now they are going to start spawning, and pay attention. So now they are going to start spawning, and when the plane kills them, so when the plane kills the rocket or the enemy, And why we have here a null reference exception? Let me just take a look at here. So spawn rocket, rocket and plane. So this one, what do we have here? Spawn rocket, rocket, spawn plane, plane. Why do we have a null reference exception? Let me go and try that again. So let's see that. Okay, this one started to spawn, but this one has a null reference exception. Did I not, like, on the plane, I did not attach? Let me just go here. Prefabs and the plane. What's wrong here? Let me quickly go. Get enemy spawner is equal to this enemy script. Here it is, enemy spawner. It should be okay. This is really interesting. So plane, we have the plane. Actually, not this one, plane enemy. Okay, plane enemy is there. Everything is cool. I think I attached the plane. Yeah, I did that. I need to attach the plane enemy. Attach the plane enemy in here as well. Yeah, so this is okay. I attached the plane, not the plane enemy. So that was the problem. So let's try it again. So let's go now and we will see when the rocket is starting to spawn. So we have the rocket, now we will have the plane enemy. And when these mines kill them, you will see in a moment that they will, okay, let me go somewhere around here so that, well, I cannot, I mean, these mines are spawning on random. Come on, man, where are the mines to kill these planes and enemies? Oh, bam, you see that plane dead? The plane is dead and it will start spawning again in a moment or two. So yeah, there is another plane and you see it. So yeah, it's basically working. Now we saw this right here is nothing new. So we have the spawning. We're just spawning here depending on the bool that we set up. You get the point, yada, yada, yada. We don't have to explain everything what is going on here, but if something is not clear, just hit me up and we are good to go and I will explain that. Now, before I proceed to wrap up the player script, I'm going to go here in sprites and for the explosion, I'm going to set it to multiple for the sprite mode and go here in the sprite editor. Now, we do need to take all of this right here like this. It is a little bit tedious. I mean, you can use slice, but we have these small parts like this here and Unity will slice them like this and we don't want that. So we don't want them to be sliced like this. We want them to be sliced like individual pieces. So it is a little bit tedious. We will need to do all of this manual labor on our own. I know, but that's game development. You need to get used to it. Because in your game development pipeline, especially if you start working for a company, you're not gonna do everything automatically. A lot of things you need to do manually. So yeah, this is the career you choose. This is the tutorial that you are watching. It's not my fault, you know? It's not my fault for that, okay? So here, go again, and for this one as well, and this one as well. So yeah, basically you need to do for all of these. So simply drag and drop them like this. Drag and, well, I'm saying drag and drop, but actually drag and slice. And if you want to make it perfect, it's up to you. I'm not gonna do that. This is just a tutorial. So I'm not gonna like go in it and make it perfect, line it up every pixel at a time and right here. And the last one I'm gonna simply create here because we need one empty and I'm going to hit apply so that this applies. And yeah, so now I can select all of these, take the explosion and put it over here. So here I can select the assets, new folder, I can say animations, and here I can say explosion. Voila. So let me just take the explosion, put it over here. I'm going to say order in layer is equal to 4 and I'm going to call it explosion like this. I am going to go here and preview it. It is small, you see, we don't see it. So what I'm going to do is take the explosion, set the pixels per unit, let's say at 70 and hit apply button. So let's try it out now. Yeah, we have it a little bit larger. It's really cool. It's really cool. I love it. I love it. I'm gonna go into the animator, by the way, and go here and check this or uncheck the loop time because I don't want it to loop. I only want it to play once. And this is going to be our explosion, but before we continue with it, I'm simply gonna go here and create deactivate explosion and attach that on the explosion game object. So go here, drag and drop it, attach it on the explosion game object. And this one is simply going to deactivate, nothing special. So here we're going to say void deactivate obj. And again, you see these red things. So here I'm simply going to say game object set active to false, like this. I am going to say here invoke like this, and I'm going to invoke it after 2 seconds to deactivate. And I need to restart my Visual Studio because for some reason it crashed. I don't know why, but it crashed. So yeah, this is our explosion, and I'm gonna go here in prefabs and drag and drop the explosion into the prefabs, because now I can go here. I have the player movement. Did I put here? Here is the explosion, okay. We have also the enemy script, so here for the explosion, I'm going to uncheck this instantiate, and basically that's that. So what we need to do is, we need to go here, select the plane and the rocket enemy, plane and rocket, and I'm gonna drag and drop the explosion right there. Also for our plane, which is the player, drag and drop the explosion right there, and I'm going to hit apply so that that change applies to the prefab. Let me go into the player movement and wrap things up. So here what's gonna happen is void on trigger enter 2D. Here I'm going to say target. So what's gonna happen here is we can collide with the target tag, which is equal the enemy, or if the target tag is equal to the mine, like this. So what are we gonna do is we're going to say instantiate the explosion prefab at the transform.position using quaternion identity. Next, I'm gonna say invoke restart game in 2 seconds. So after 2 seconds, we're gonna restart our game, and then simply I'm gonna say game object. So game object dot get the component, get component, sprite render component dot enabled is equal to false, because we don't want to render our player on the screen because he's dead. And I'm gonna simply go here and create void restart game, which is our function. And here we're simply going to say Unity engine dot scene management, scene manager, load scene. And here I'm going to say dot get active scene dot name. Simple. We did this numerous of times, 1 million times, and yeah, basically that is that. All of this here, we don't need to explain it because we already know it. We are doing it over and over again in our tutorials. And if I go back now, this is our game. So if I hit the play button, you will now notice that when we either collide, you see, bam, we collided, and now we're gonna restart the game. So yeah, you can implement, again, I'm bad at my own game. So let's go here and, oh, again. Anyways, what you can do is you can implement a timer and you can measure for how much time the person playing your game is, well, how much time he is playing it. So yeah, that can be like your criteria for giving score or whatever. And also you can create bounds so that you don't allow the player to go outside of these bounds, because currently he can do that. I'm not gonna create it. That's your own assignment. And basically we are done with our game. So congratulations. This is a really cool game, a really neat one. Fahir from usdudes.com. Smash like, subscribe, notification button, and a lot of the good things. Download the project and assets and I will see you guys in another video.